Poison is. I am thrilled to have a special guest at the tavern. We don't get to do this every week. I'm usually just ranting about whatever happened that week, but I love having conversations in the tavern, just like the founding fathers did in their taverns, about what it's going to take to save freedom. These revolutionary discussions, strategies, and tactics necessary to win. And one of the major battles we need to win is saving the persecuted Christians. Dede Laugesen is with me. Dede, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me in the tavern. I'm so excited to be here, Rick.
Hey, let's clank mugs here. I know you're in a hotel in Washington, D.C.
Click, click.
There we go. And a good swig. Believe it or not, Capitol Hill Suites is where I used to stay there all the time when I would go to D.C. and do tours for Barton. David Barton, he does these, after hours, really cool behind the scenes in all the old rooms and lugs around all these original documents, so you can say, hey, this happened in this room, and anyway, I used to do that for David a lot. I only do it once or twice a year at the most now, but that's where I used to stay, was Capitol Suites, because you can walk right over, to the Capitol from there.
It's over to the House office buildings, or just up the hill from them. No problem.
Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Well, for our folks joining us in the tavern tonight, Dede and I got to meet just a couple of weeks ago right here at the Patriot Academy campus in Constitution City, Texas. She was gracious enough to bring a very special guest for our talk about what to do about Sharia. And man, Dede, it was a great night. I can't thank you enough for bringing Nassar. It was, I tell you what, he left me speechless several times, which I'm not, usually I talk too much. And especially when he said we're probably less than 5 years behind what he experienced in England. But first of all, just let me say thank you to you for making him available, and you brought him over to the United States to do some events. I can't remember if y'all are still touring or still doing events or what your schedule is, but I just wanted to highlight your ministry and what you do, and let our viewers and listeners know about it. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, we are still touring. We are back in Washington, D.C. I'm away from home from February 1st to February 28th this month with Nisar Hussain with the Legalize Apostasy campaign, as you know, and you heard his story. He has been heavily persecuted in the UK. As a natural-born citizen of the UK, he converted to Christianity from Islam, and for 30 years now has been so severely persecuted and lives in hiding in his own country under police protection. But the police have never arrested or prosecuted any of the many, many perpetrators of multiple violent crimes against Nisar and his properties. So it's just a complete failure of the state. And it all has to do with not wanting to upset the sensibilities of the Muslims who have migrated into England by the tens of thousands over the last several decades, and have created no-go zones right there in London, in Bradford, and many other cities and towns across England, where it is just not safe for a non-believer in Islam to go in there, because they institute Sharia on everybody who passes through, and the Hizbah police will come by and tell you what you're doing wrong, or how you're not dressed right, or your hair isn't covered, and you will suffer in England. And it's happening all across Europe right now, Rick. It's just a horrible situation, and most especially it's coming to America. It is in America, and Texas is targeted. They're inviting all their friends to come and live with them in Texas. We have Turkey and Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and others that are just funding the development of these Islamic centers and mosques. So many in Texas, they're popping up like Starbucks. It's just crazy. So I'm really glad Texas has the Proposition 10 that Texas should prohibit Sharia law. 5 words, very simple proposition. But Republicans in Texas really need to get out and vote. The Democrats are beating the Republicans right now in terms of early voting in the primary. So we really need Republicans to get up.
Yeah, we need to talk to, and most of our people are all over the country, but we've got quite a few in Texas. And for those of you that happen to be online right now watching, for the thousands that'll be watching later tonight and tomorrow, if you're in Texas or if you're not in Texas, tell your friends in Texas to make sure they go vote. Early voting is this week, and then the election is next Tuesday, March 3rd. And it's all the way down at the bottom. I mean, it's the last thing I think on the ballot. There's 10 propositions. Now these don't have the force of law, but they force the law. I like to say. In other words, they push the legislators, they push the administration in Texas, Governor Abbott and others, to do this and to stop Sharia law in Texas. And man, Dede, everything is so much you said that I want to key in on. First of all, the fact that this is England, where Nassar was telling these stories from. I mean, this is, you think about Christendom being literally under attack in the very places where it thrived and where it was a blessing to the world and brought so much good to the world. And they know that. And so they know where they need to undermine. And what I heard from Nassar that night and what you've been intimately involved with here, this is a blueprint. I mean, we're watching it play out there, and as you said, across Europe, and it is what we will see here in Texas and America if we don't do something.
Yeah, it really is a blueprint. It's there is a strategy that Islam wants submission of the entire world to their God, a moon god, Allah. And people need to understand that the God that they worship is not the same God that Jews and Christians worship. This is an ancient pagan deity, and the law, Sharia law, is a political system. So
Yeah.
Islam is really a religion masked uh,
Yes.
as a religion, but it truly it is Sharia law that
It's a political
regulates
ideology. Yeah, it's literally to
every
control
aspect
people's
of a
life. That's right.
Muslim's life. Yes,
Yes.
and every aspect of a Muslim's life is moderated by Sharia, though Muslims are not necessarily informed about Sharia law. And
Right.
Nisar says that he didn't know that leaving Islam was their worst sin possible and merits the death penalty in 11 countries around the world. So they
Wow.
are doing a genocide case against those 11 countries, and they're hoping that the United States will join them and support them in that. But most especially, he's here to warn Americans about the dangers of allowing Sharia law to operate in tandem, in parallel with our constitutional law here in the United States, because they're completely antithetical to each other.
Yeah.
They cannot live side by side. And what they seek is to have Sharia become the law of the land in America. And it's dangerous times. After October 7th, American parents were really had their eyes open when they saw all of those students across campuses in America stand up for Hamas, the
Yeah.
Muslim
Cheering it on.
Brotherhood
Yeah.
line of out of Gaza, and calling what was happening, a defensive war by Israel against these terrorists living next door to them, and calling it genocide when they're really just trying to get rid of the terrorists and
Right.
let the people live in peace. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's been
the
crazy.
yeah, the lack of self-awareness as Americans or even people that are here in America to say, it would be equivalent to 40 something thousand Americans being killed. What would we do? How would we respond? Well, we know what we would do because we know what we did after 9/11. We know what we did after Pearl Harbor. And to not allow Israel to do that, or to somehow say that they're doing anything wrong in the way that they're doing it. But I totally derailed us and did give you a chance to tell us some background on Save the Persecuted Christians. I mean, you get to work with some of my favorite people, Suzanne and Suzanne Grisham and Frank Gaffney, Eric Metaxas. Tell us how you got started, and because it's not just obviously England, but around the world what you're doing, and I want to get into how people can help.
Thanks. We started in 2018, February of 2018, so we're entering into our 8th year as a U.S. nonprofit. We operate as a coalition. I lead over 200 civil society and faith leaders who each in their own capacity provide aid or reporting on persecuted Christian communities around the world. And together we join forces to strategize on the issues they're seeing in the areas they're working, and see how we can work together as a coalition to educate public officials and the U.S. population on these circumstances that so many of our brothers and sisters are suffering from. There are 388 million heavily persecuted Christians in the world, according to Open Doors, which publishes every year its World Watch list. This is on the top 50 countries where Christians endure persecution. But there are a record number of countries, over 144 countries, where Christians are persecuted. So the numbers on the World Watch list are actually quite conservative, and it just gives you an idea of the persecution. Christians have, when I started in 2018, the number was 215 million. Now it's 388 million. So just in 7 years, we've seen those numbers almost double. And this persecution that Open Doors is talking about is waking up every single day and not knowing if you'll make it through the day and to the next night. You could suffer loss of limbs and life, or be raped, or have your property taken from you, or be forced to flee. This is the kind of persecution that's happening.
Yeah, let me get you to drill down on that, because sometimes we use the term too loosely, right? We're not talking about somebody can't wear a cross to work. We're talking about people, their literally their lives, their livelihood, their ability to even live out their faith in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, could you drill down on that a little bit? How you define persecuted Christian?
So a persecuted Christian, there's a difference between discrimination and harassment versus overt persecution. Persecution is when a person or their property is actually harmed because of their beliefs or no belief at all. For us specifically, we took on Christians because we were watching ISIS run through the Middle East, and Christians and Muslims in large numbers being pushed out of the Middle East region and into Europe. They saw immigration from 2014 on like they'd never seen before, and they were welcoming Muslim immigrants into their countries by the tens of thousands. And all of that, as we know now after the Biden years, what that kind of immigration can do, it just upsets everything, all of your social systems. So the persecution of Christians was intended to force Muslims also out of the area into civilizational jihad, which is by demographic, they move into areas, and Europe has a birth rate of below one child to replace two parents, and it's collapsing demographically. So you bring a whole bunch of Muslims in, and they're having children at 6 times the rate of white Europeans. So they're 6 times the rate. So they're very, very quickly increase in population. And when they move into an area such as Europe and now the United States, they very quickly move into the political sphere. They take seats on the school boards, in small towns, in the town council. They become the mayor. They add their numbers to the police. And before you know it, you have a town that was, through and through an American small town that has been flipped and turned into a Sharia community that is a no-go zone for people like yourself and me who want to just travel through or be a tourist, maybe buy a 6-pack of beer, go to a tavern or something, and you're going to have the Hizbah police.
Oh, man. And, it's funny too. I was thinking about your 6 times thing on the population. And I used to think homeschoolers were going to turn this around. We homeschooled. We had 4 biological kids. We've adopted 2, and all of our homeschool friends would say that's a nice start. So I thought the homeschool world was going to, but it did. 20 years ago, I thought this is going to catch on, but really, honestly, there's been such a suppression of the desire to have kids and family and to make that a priority, that it's not just, white Europeans, it's in America too. And I found it really weird that Elon Musk was the one really bringing attention to this like 3 years ago. He was talking about population and all of those things, and the need to procreate more. Of course, he chooses to do that with multiple wives. That's a whole other topic. But
I don't even think they're wives. They're just
no,
multiple women.
you're right. You're right. That's more accurate. But that's part of how the Muslims are doing it, right? I mean, they're allowed to have up to 4 wives, and then they have the additional almost. Anyway, they are outpopulating in Europe big time. And to your point, it begins with this, oh, we just want to, enjoy freedom like you. And so we're coming to America, and then they take over entire communities like we're seeing in Minnesota and Michigan and other places, and now Dallas and all over Texas. I think I was with Frank again over the weekend, and he spoke, and he said now it's up to 2,000 what they would call mosques. Those are all not big buildings. Some of those are meetings and homes and other places, but 2,000 just in Texas. But it's the beginning of those communities to grow and literally to take over, and it just can't be ignored anymore. I mean, we have to wake up and pay attention to this. What kind of a response, as you've been taking Nassar around? Are most people eyes glazed over? Are they getting it? I mean, I was shocked at how many people that night here. What we have 250 people packed in there. How many people came up afterwards and said, "Man, I didn't know any of this. Thank you for doing this. I had no idea." Is that what you're hearing and seeing as you take Nassar around?
Absolutely. Most people are really clueless with regards to the threat of Sharia. They see Islam and Christianity as being equal in nature, and a religion that should be protected and have free speech and all of that. But they don't see the uh, thousands of Muslim Brotherhood front groups that operate as charities or operate as in some other capacity, that are raising money and sending this money off to terrorists, or supporting those local imams who every weekend or throughout the week even are preaching in those mosques, in those Islamic centers, or even in Muslim homes about their plan to destroy America. And their plan to destroy America truly is like Mamdani in New York, to rise up into power, to put people into positions to change the fabric and the nature of the community in which they've gained power. And it's happening, and we are allowing it to happen. They call it the European suicide, and now America is actually facing that same thing.
Yeah.
That we've invited this in, that our
Yep.
own laws allow for them to operate on an equal footing with Christians and Jews and others in America. And that's all good, except for the nature of Islam truly is about conquering. They
Yeah.
always had an agenda. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has stated that they are revolutionary in nature, and truly they're not coming to America to assimilate and become like us. They're
That's right.
coming to gain power and flip the power and the entire makeup of American society. So
Yeah.
the West is truly in a battle for its survival,
Yeah.
and Europe is failing. We hear J.D. Vance talking about this. We hear Marco Rubio regularly talking to Europe, trying to help them help themselves as we seek ways to do the same. And I was so relieved when Representatives Chip Roy and Keith Self from Texas stood up the Sharia-Free America caucus just 2 weeks ago in Congress, and they
Yeah.
now have 41 members. I mean, there is a lot of interest. That's a lot. That is more than 20% of the Republicans in Congress have joined this caucus.
Yeah.
We've been visiting their offices today, and we've met with a number of legislative assistants and directors in those offices. They're very eager to move. There's some 12 different bills that deal with Sharia before Congress right now. So we will be going through all of those and putting up on our website an analysis of those bills, and then
Good.
talking to members of Congress in this caucus as well about things
A-
that maybe they're missing or not thinking about as well.
And let me give that website several times before we log off tonight. SaveThePersecutedChristians.org. SaveThePersecutedChristians.org. And there's so much there that affects us. Sometimes when we even say that phrase, I think, Dede, some people will think, oh, well, this must be in, somewhere in Africa or somewhere in Asia or whatever, that which you do all over the world. But right now, man, we got to protect the homeland and recognize what we're up against. And I think in a way I respect their strategy. They know that a kinetic jihad, Bubba's going to respond to that, and I'm a Bubba. I mean, I'm a country boy. We would respond quickly to a physical kinetic jihad. They are so smart to do a cultural jihad and use our own kindness and quote unquote tolerance against us. And so, Allie Beth Stuckey's toxic empathy is relevant here. We are so foolish to think that out of this niceness or what we think is tolerance, that we're going to literally tolerate evil instead of we should be intolerant of evil. We should not be okay with child marriage or, taking away women's rights. And I mean, I watched this interview last night, Dede. I literally was crying as I'm watching this little girl tell her story at 13 being forced into marriage and just the horror of it all. And I'm thinking every woman in America should watch that video and be joining you at SaveThePersecutedChristians.org and joining us with the Save Texas, Save America campaign. And yet, it seems like it's only, I don't want to say insiders like we have some special thing or not. We're just more involved. We're active. It seems like only insiders are paying attention at this point, which is why we have to do campaigns like this and we have to talk about it more in order to wake up Americans to where they no longer fall for everything you just said, which is the whole, it's just another religion and all of these things. It's going to take some effort. This is not going to be easy to do. And that's why I'm so thankful for you. You've been at this since 2018. And now I think, honestly, God's been preparing you with this organization for this fight and with the right people. And we're thrilled to be teaming up with you. So anyway, I didn't mean to filibuster there. Yes, I just had to bring up the filibuster since it's a hot topic right now. But man, I mean, when you meet with congressmen, if 41 that have joined now, when you meet with the ones that aren't, how difficult is that? Even with the staff, I mean, is this a totally, they're not aware of it or they're afraid to touch it because they're afraid of being called a bigot or whatever? Like, what are you facing?
Well, many are afraid to touch it. Many are afraid that they're going to somehow go against the first the first right, which is freedom of religion, freedom of worship, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. Those things are foundational to the American society, but you have a system coming in, Sharia law, that does not allow for any of that. No freedom of religion.
That's right.
The greatest crime in Islam is to leave Islam, is apostasy, and the death penalty is implemented in 11 countries still to this day. It's a brutal, archaic law, and yet they have not reformed, and they have no will to reform. So there are very many different places like that in Sharia that it doesn't allow the woman to speak freely her mind. You cannot, you can't get together with the women and the men together. You, as a woman under Sharia, you have to have a companion, a male companion, go with you out and about in the streets. It's really, really a very restrictive religion, and all of its laws are in opposition to the laws in the United States, where these Muslim politicians who are they have to make an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, yet many of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but many of them have no intention of doing that. And in fact,
no, and sometimes they let it slip, right?
Yeah, Sharia law is superior to any other law, that they assert Sharia.
Yes, yes, and there's
Believe
yeah,
them,
or
believe
allegiance to a
them.
country. Yes, believe them. I mean, that's the weird kind of. I've been surprised at how many videos have come out where imams and others they're telling us exactly what they're doing and what they have planned for us, and yet it still doesn't wake everybody up. Okay, I do want to just totally shift to another topic because as we were preparing for the time tonight and exchanging links and everything, you mentioned to me this Colorado law that's about to go through, essentially legalizing prostitution. I mean, completely allowing, for the selling of sex. And I'm guessing, I mean, I know Colorado is still got a very blue legislature. Unfortunately, the left wing takeover of Colorado did happen, and we need to take it back. And I definitely want to see Victor Marks as governor there and hopefully stop this kind of nonsense. But what is going on? How do they, what's their, I mean, do you think this could actually pass in Colorado?
I do. SB 26097 is the law, and they plan to legalize prostitution across Colorado without bringing it to a vote of the people. And they can do that because we have a Democrat trifecta in
Mm,
Colorado right now. Governor Jared Polis, he's one of the 4 billionaires who flipped Colorado from red to blue with a plan. You can read about it in Rocky Mountain Heist. And our senators and state legislators. So we have very few Republicans in the legislature right now. So
yeah.
they literally can, if they have a will, if Governor Polis and others don't see it as too toxic for a midterm election, they can just pass this without bringing it to the people, and then they will criminalize dissent, and they will make it impossible for towns and home rule or towns and others to place regulations on prostitution. So it will be statewide without a vote of the people and literally just shoved down our throats. So it's possible that it will just pass through the legislature. There's the only chance is that conservatives and others who just see this as the nonsense that it is
Yeah.
give enough pushback that they table it for now. But they do intend to do it. And if Colorado stays blue in an off year, they may very well just pass that. So we need to be alive to that because Denver has I-25 and I-70 crossing each other right there in Denver. So this is the distribution state for sex trafficking
Mm.
across the nation and drugs across the nation. It all comes up into Colorado from south of the border, and it goes on to various places from there because it's such a interchange of those highways.
Dede,
It's very
I
dangerous.
often make the mistake of thinking, man, people just obviously see this as wrong. But I realize, even a lot of libertarians would say, well, why can't we have prostitution if it's if they're an adult and it's their choice? And they want to say, so let's make the case, so that people understand what this does to communities, what it does to families, and then how much it increases the sex trafficking of younger girls and boys, frankly. And just why? What would you say to a Colorado voter that's saying, oh, well, that's up to them?
No other state has ever legalized prostitution. People think that Nevada has legalized prostitution. It's not so. They've legalized it in a small portion of a county outside of Las Vegas, and that's the only place where you're allowed to operate these kinds of businesses.
And then the
And
state just ignores it, right? They could go stop it if they wanted to pass and use their law enforcement to stop it, but they haven't. I guess I don't know. Is that how in Nevada?
yeah, they do have a small area that's where you can go for
Yeah.
prostitution that's legal. But no other state. Maine is also looking at legalizing prostitution. The problem is when you legalize prostitution and you can't put any regulations on it, if you're a small town in Colorado, I could end up with a flop house, on both sides of me and across the street. We've worked hard in Monument, Colorado, where I live, to not have a methadone clinic put right smack dab down in the center of town. It was a hard fight, but we got it gone. We've fought a
What?
number of
I'm so sorry. I don't know. What is a methadone clinic? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, Governor Hickenlooper at the time, he's now a senator, he had pinpointed our small town of Monument, just north of the Air Force Academy, very conservative town, very Christian town. Lots of former military officers reside in Monument. He had pinpointed that our town for a methadone clinic, and a methadone clinic is where addicts to heroin and
Oh,
other
okay. Okay. So it's
drugs
like a
go
treatment
to
center.
get
Okay, I got you.
methadone.
I
So
got you. Yeah.
you would have all kinds of drug addicts coming into town, leaving their needles in the park right across the street, and it was
Yeah.
going to be horrendous. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was just going to draw a certain element into our small town that doesn't exist there right now, and that's exactly what will happen with this as well. Is that areas that are safe and secure and good place
Yeah.
to raise your family will no longer be a good place to raise your family, because
I would.
prostitution will blow up all over Colorado, even though they say that they will still criminalize pimping. But you know
Right.
nobody
How
will
are you
care
gonna?
about that.
No,
Who
exactly.
nobody will care about that.
Exactly.
If you
No, and
legalize prostitution, nobody will care about the pimps.
yeah, and I'm assuming, and I haven't because of what you just mentioned. No state's been foolish enough to legalize it. But I'm assuming it would be just like even when you legalize gambling and you allow casinos to come in. Dobson did that study back in the '80s on this and showed how everything follows it. The prostitution follows it, bankruptcies, the family falling apart, suicides. I mean, all the bad, anything you want to go down goes up, right? And everything you want to go up goes down. It's just a horrible thing for the culture and for the society. And I would assume you could probably show the same thing in other countries where it has been legalized or allowed. And I bet you we're going to have to do that. I bet you, and it probably already has been done. Probably some of our family policy councils and others have done those studies. So maybe we can find those. But you would think common sense would be enough. You would think that, frankly, that people would realize if you bring this to your community, all you're going to do is ramp up everything that destroys families and destroys the community. But here
Well,
we
and what are
are.
we telling women then? What are we telling
Yeah.
women that, okay, you can't make it anywhere else. Just go sell yourself on Colfax and you'll be okay, you know?
Yeah.
And this is that you can sell your body and that's okay. That's just introducing that as a moral good in our society is
Well,
terrible.
and you know how they do it. They say I'm assuming they're doing this. I haven't followed the debate in Colorado, but I'm assuming they're. Well, what we're really trying to do is protect the women that are being put in jail for this, and what they end up doing is making it a magnet, and like you're saying, they see it as an easy way out if they're struggling, and then they get trapped in the whole trafficking thing. I cannot imagine there is any way to legalize prostitution without increasing trafficking. There's no doubt. I mean, that just common sense should tell you that that's going to happen, and it's going to be forced prostitution. Like you said, they could say we're not going to allow for pimps, but 100% it's going to happen.
Well,
And
and
you're
the
going to have
Johns
some.
get off scot-free,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
man, no issues with them, no consequences for you,
yeah.
out
Well, I
the
mean,
door
look at
with the Epstein files.
exactly. That's what I was just about to say. I mean, we're watching it happen in real time. So let's talk Colorado for a second, because if there's anybody that's dealt with the sex trafficking thing and willing to stand up against this, in my mind, it's Victor Marks. I mean, he's a guy that's the Dangerous Gentleman. I love his book. I love his what he does and how well he articulates these things. You're there in Colorado. You've worked with Victor before. There's all kinds of things being said about Victor. And I know you can't give me details of rescue missions and that kind of thing, but there are people saying that he's never done any of the stuff that he says that he does, that it's a total sham. And you've experienced personally otherwise.
I have, absolutely. Before I started in Save the Persecuted Christians in 2017, in May, I met Victor Marks and his lovely wife, Eileen, at the Broadmoor. I was there for another event. I was with a Maronite priest from Colorado who was serving refugees from Iraq and Syria who had made it to Lebanon. And so we were speaking with Victor Marks about a little girl named Christina that Father Andre knew about. And this little girl, she's from Karakosh. She was, ISIS came through Nineveh. We all remember that. It was horrific. And this mother is standing there with her 3-year-old daughter in her arms. And they're waiting for a bus to get out of the area. And before they were allowed to board the bus, an ISIS commander came over and took Christina from the arms of her mother,
Mm. Mm.
and he kept her. And then they forced the parents onto the bus, and they were off to Erbil. And 3 years went by. We talked to Victor about Christina and the situation, and just a few weeks later, we got information from Victor Marks that Christina had been rescued.
Wow.
And we had pictures of Victor with the parents, with Christina, giving Christina over to the parents. It took her a while to recognize her mom and dad,
Mm.
and it was a just really heart-wrenching but heartwarming reunion. And to know that I was a part of that. I was the Colorado Coalition's director for the President Donald Trump's campaign in 2016, and that's
Ah.
how I came to meet this Maronite priest, and then to see this Maronite priest bring forward this story about this girl Christina, and just a few weeks later to see the results that Christina was home again in Erbil, and that Victor had a hand in that. I can say it was shocking and amazing. This is one of
Wow.
the youngest victims of ISIS, but
Mm.
they take them young.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Christina was kept with us with a family in Mosul, and that's where she was found. So she hadn't been abused as many young girls
Yeah.
during the ISIS campaign were. Sold into sex slavery. Girls as young as 7 were sold as sex slaves. So it's really heartening to know that Victor Marks is fighting for Colorado, fighting for the
Yeah.
children of Colorado, fighting around the world. And I can say personally that I have experienced the work that he's done. And, the naysayers are generally coming from his political opponents and
That's right.
questioning whether he's had
Shock, right?
any of
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
And there are some 20 candidates in the field
Yeah.
for the GOP. And it's not likely that any one of them will win because Colorado has become so Californized
Right.
over the years. But we're hopeful and we're thankful that Victor Marks, someone of his caliber, has stepped up. Somebody who
Yeah.
really does have a heart for human rights, and
Yeah.
I
And
think he.
it's gonna, yeah, just politically, it's gonna take a Donald Trump type, that comes from outside the system and just has that kind of, I don't want to say star power, but just that ability to rally people and to bring support, financial and volunteers and everything else. That's why I got excited when he said he was going to run, because it's going to take something really crazy like that, somebody like that just is a very, very unique, once in a generation kind of
And he's a
candidate.
great
But
Christian too. He's really on fire
yeah,
for Christ, and
oh,
that's the name
I
of
love
his
him.
ministry.
Yeah,
All things possible is
yeah,
after Matthew 19:26. All things are possible with God, and he
yeah,
believes that thoroughly. And I think the Colorado voter can be moved by somebody
yeah,
who comes in at that level and really speaks to the person's heart, and not so
yeah.
much this political divisiveness that really we're in a cold civil war in the United States
Yeah,
right
no
now.
doubt. No doubt. Well, Dede, we're almost out of time. There's so much evil in the world. What can people do? How can they come alongside you? What's the best way to support you? I mean, obviously, financially, people can go to savethepersecutedchristians.org. Every dollar counts. Helps you to get the word out. Helps you to organize and work with all these folks that you get to deal with. What else can we encourage people to do?
I want people to become educated on what Sharia is. And a coalition of us have put together a site called bansharia.com, bansharia.com. You'll find there a lot of the work that Frank has done over the years. Frank Gaffney is a well-known expert on Sharia. And so that information is there. We've made it really easy for you to understand what the threat is and how you can move against it. We need more bills like what Texas has. Texas Proposition 10 needs to be in every state across the country, especially the red states, because we're alive to the threat.
Yeah,
And support your members of Congress, and if they aren't on the Sharia Free America caucus, ask them to join that caucus and to
yeah.
support banning Sharia across America.
Amen. Amen. So good. Dede, what a treat. Thank you so much for coming and joining me in the tavern tonight. Please tell Nassar thank you for coming to the U.S. and helping to warn us about all of these things. Keep up the great work, and we look forward to working with you some more. Can I get one more clank of the mugs with you? Thank you for being with me in the tavern.
I love being with you here. This is great.
We'll do it again. God bless
Say
you.
hi to
Thanks so
Kara.
much again. I
Bye-bye.
will. I will. Thank you. God bless. All right, everybody. I'm going to jump into your questions real quick before I jump over to Flashpoint. Y'all, I know y'all been putting some notes in the chat while Dede and I have been talking, but we've been having such a good time that I couldn't even look over here. So I'm just going to start with Alex. How can Tucker Carlson not see that the threat of Islam is real? It's sad. I totally agree with you. I watched the Huckabee Tucker video. In fact, I'm probably going to do some reaction reels to some of the things in there. The one thing I will share with you, in fact, I put this on X last night. I think it was. Tucker made such a big deal out of 14-year-olds in Gaza being killed, and I wish I had been in there and been able to whisper in Huckabee's ear or been able to say it myself. But I would have said, Tucker, if a 14-year-old is holding a gun to your daughter's head or is raping your daughter at gunpoint, and they're 14, do you care what their age is? If they're being a thug, if they're pointing a gun at someone, if they're going to kill someone or they're raping someone, does the age really matter? I mean, at that point, are you not going to protect your daughter? I can guarantee you, for me, I don't care if they're 13, 14, 18, 80. I don't care what their age is. I don't care where they're from. They got a gun to my daughter's head or they're hurting my daughter. I'm putting one through the cranial ocular and it's going to be lights out and my daughter's going to be alive and the thug's going to be dead. I don't care what their age is. I don't understand. I can't comprehend how he cannot comprehend that. He's way too smart to not understand what Huckabee was saying about the 14-year-olds that are combatants have to be treated no differently than an 18-year-old that is a combatant. If you are shooting at our troops or you are harming people, if you're raping and murdering people on October 7th in Israel, I'm sorry, I don't care how old you are. So that one really stood out to me. I totally understand the being disgusted with children dying in Gaza. I'm disgusted by that as well. But Tucker couldn't even hear Huckabee explaining that, they literally, we would tell them where we were about to bomb. I mean, the Israelis would, I say we because we did that in World War II. We did that with the Japanese. We dropped leaflets, told them where we were going to be bombing, that puts our pilots in danger, and yet we're doing it to try to save innocent lives, but you're still going to lose innocent lives in war. And so the Israelis have been doing that, and that's what Huckabee was trying to say. They're doing it even more than we did. They would tell them where they're about to bomb, and instead of getting the women and children out, Hamas shoves the women and children in there to be murdered by them because they're the ones putting the women and children in harm's way. So anyway, we could spend all night on that interview. It was very frustrating watching that interview. I'll just be honest with you. I was honestly shocked. I mean, I've hunted with Tucker Carlson. I've flown with him, had the chance to visit with him. I liked the guy a lot. I really enjoyed the time I got with him. It's only one trip that I spent, a couple days I spent with him. But man, I am absolutely confused by why he has become so anti-Israel. And you just don't, when all of your assumptions are against Israel, and when all of your questions are snarky, literally like baited to be against Israel, and then you don't even let the guy answer. It just gets old, man. I by the end of the interview, I was just going, Huckabee did great for what he was up against. There were several times I thought the answer could have been, like I'm saying, like ask Tucker. He did that once or twice, which I thought was very good. But for him to stay as calm as he did, knowing how much he loves Israel, and to be accused of loving Israel more than your own country, which is ridiculous, and that's another thing I would have asked him. How is it loving? How is it putting another nation above your nation by trying to support allies that we need in order to protect our nation? And you look at the small amount of money that we give Israel compared to Ukraine and overall what we give around the world and what we waste on Somali daycares and other silly things. You're going, that's like the tip of the defense of Western civilization. Of course we need to be helping there. That is, if Israel falls, the effect on us and the spread of Islam and radical Islam is, you just can't be so foolish as to think that we cannot support our allies, and that somehow by supporting our allies, that means we're not being America first. I think we're being America first by supporting Israel, by supporting Taiwan, by supporting any nation that is an ally of ours. We're still America first. I'm totally with all the people that are against all the massive amount of spending that we're doing around the world, and how much we waste around the world, and how much we actually support evil causes around the world. I agree. I would revamp the whole thing. If we would do the Doge cuts and we would actually investigate all those things, then we'd be a whole lot better off. But to say that we're not going to support it all, or that somehow you're basically committing treason against your own country for being pro-Israel, it's just too much. It's just too much. I don't get it. Let's see. I did what you had the Institute students ask candidates about Sharia law. 3 Michigan congressional candidates all said no threat. Wow, you're kidding me. They said Islam was not a threat, but Christian nationalism is the greatest threat to America. How indoctrinated could you be? And that's a candidate you're saying that's running for Congress. Wow. That tells you right there. And of course, I've heard that. I mean, even Tucker Carlson said that. He said Christian Zionists are a greater threat. And of course, Huckabee did do a great job of explaining you're a Zionist just simply if you think Israel has the right to exist. And then, of course, that became a whole debate. And even Matt Walsh, who I love and is a friend and is usually right, but to act like the terminology right to exist is a non-starter. I mean, it just basically means it. And maybe let's be very specific. A nation has a right to defend herself. If you attack any nation that is, especially if it's recognized by the UN, it's recognized by the world as that is your nation, those are your borders. If you're attacked, you have a right to defend yourself. That's essentially what we mean when we say a right to exist. You have a right to be if you are a nation, you have a right to defend yourself and continue to exist if you can defend yourself. And that's all the supporters of Israel are saying. So anyway, I didn't mean to take up that much time on that one. We could spend all night on that one as always. All right, way to go. Josie's already voted, and Mom, excellent. All right, folks. Well, listen, I am going to go ahead and sign off and jump over to Flashpoint. We'll be on Flashpoint. So go to fparmy.com, and you can click on any of those links to watch Flashpoint tonight, or you can just go to Rumble and look up Flashpoint, and then I'll probably be sharing it on our Facebook page as well. Hope you have a fantastic evening. I really appreciate you joining me in the Tavern tonight. Seems like I had a couple of announcements I was supposed to do tonight, and now I've forgotten. Can't remember what it was, but make sure you get your Patriot Brew coffee. And, how about the U.S. hockey team, huh? Man, was that cool. Oh, my goodness. 46 years to the day, winning gold again, Miracle on Ice Part 2. And the interviews with those kids, so patriotic, so pro-America, instead of being like the traitor that went and skied for China. What a disgusting thing. She should be shunned everywhere in America and say, hey, go to China if you want to. Anyway, but thankfully we had the little gal in figure skating won the gold and was super patriotic, and she was apparently her dad was a political refugee because of Tiananmen Square. Interesting story. But the hockey guys took that was the best. That was absolutely the best. They did amazing, and just the toughness. That kid getting his teeth knocked out and then scoring the winning goal made me proud. Made me proud. So I know you felt the same way. So we're back. America's back, but we gotta fight. Dede said it exactly right. It's not coming. It's here. The wolf is not just at the door. The wolf is in the house. So take it serious. If you're in Texas, please make sure you go vote this week. Tell everybody you know to go vote. If you're outside of Texas, tell all of your friends in Texas. Post it on your social media. Send emails and text. Tell them to go vote in the Republican primary and make sure they go all the way to the bottom. And on Prop 10, Sharia should be banned. No, that's not the language. It's Texas should prevent Sharia law. Something to that effect. Anyway, tell them to vote for that one. That's huge. It's going to send a signal to our elected officials, our public servants. Okay, out of here. Y'all have a great night. Appreciate you joining me here in the Tavern.